Yes, welcome to Hip and the Lip. I'm the Hip, and this is the Lip.
Hello.
Thanks for matching my level of excitement this evening so far. This is a podcast about the New York Islanders and whatever else we decide to talk about. So, if you haven't listened to us before, welcome to this exciting podcast. Yes, I'm just overwhelmed. I don't even know what to do with myself. You can listen to us
Hello.
through. Hello, la la la. You can listen to us through iTunes, Hip and the Lip, Stitcher for Android users. We have a website, hipandthelip.com. Enough with that. Let's get right into it. So, from the last time, there were two Islander games. The first was the Islanders hosting who else? The New York Rangers. And there was a particular quotation that I'd like to share that describes a key moment of the game. Here is the quotation. Terrific play. Demonstrates his hockey sense, decisiveness, and willingness to take a risk and make a play. Loved seeing that, and there should be a mutiny if he gets sent back down when Travis and Johnny come back. Lip, do you agree?
I would have to agree with that because it just makes sense, and I think the person that wrote that in wherever you got that from, I think was dead on with his analysis of the play. That, of course, would be the first goal of the game that the Islanders scored against the Rangers to tie it at 1. A very big goal in that game, of course. But I have to absolutely agree with whatever poster posted that. Can we inform myself as well as everybody who wrote that?
Some loser Isle fan 16 on Islander Mania.
Yeah.
Not.
Wait.
It says it's somebody who lives in Queens. Has been a member since 2007. Has over 1,000 posts. But what we haven't said is who's the quotation referring to?
Well, I mean, it's obvious that quotation has to be referring to Brian Straight because his hockey sense, decisiveness, and willingness are what separates him from the other players on the team. I mean, his hockey sense is second to none, at least relative to the rest of his teammates. And I think any player in the NHL. Oh, wait a minute. No, I'm sorry. Not Brian Straight. My mistake.
My mistake.
No,
I apologize.
My mistake. I apologize. Nope, that would have to be Adam Pelech, the recent call-up from the minor leagues whose play on that first goal led to the goal, and a tremendous play by Mr. Pelech. And just to expand on the point on that quote that you just read, Mr. Pelech came down from the point. It was a turnover by Kevin Hayes. Actually, it was a turnover right at the blue line. So Kevin Hayes was taking the puck out of the zone. Brock Nelson made a nice play to get him to turn the puck over. He had a retreat. He tried passing it back to his defense partner, or defenseman, I should say partner defenseman. Pelech saw the vulnerability. He saw an opportunity to try and make a play, cause turnover, which is exactly what happened. Brock Nelson gathered the loose puck in the right circle and snapped a beautiful wrist shot right past Henrik Lundqvist, who was clearly not expecting that shot to be released so quickly. And game tied at 1, and that was a very key moment in the game.
So was he so Pelech's a defenseman? Yes, we've talked about him at length already.
Yep.
Probably more than any other player. Of course, as we all planned. So, where was he positioned before the puck was turned over? How often do defensemen come past the center ice? He ended up being behind the net, right? I mean, when it was even strength, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, it was. Yeah. So, and one of the themes of this podcast, or at least of that game, was activation. So the word activation is a word that is used quite often by the Islanders coach Jack Capuano, and when he says that, any Islander fan that's heard him multiple times will know that he's referring to the fact that he wants his defenseman getting involved in the play. Now, of course, the activation is the noun form of the word active.
Thank you.
The fact that he probably is misusing the word there is what makes it so funny, and the fact that we mock him every time he uses that word. But I'm digressing here. But yeah, so whenever he says that he wants it, he means that he wants his defenseman getting involved in the play, which is exactly what happened there. Pelech made a play because he sensed a vulnerability and an opportunity to make a play, and that's exactly what happened. But the turnover happened at the blue line. Kevin Hayes of the Ranger
the
Ranger
Rangers
blue line, yeah,
right? Yeah,
correct, yeah. So Kevin Hayes,
so like
the
is
Ranger.
he? Yeah. So do you think Pelech was like by center ice when that turnover happened, and then he decided to, or did he cause the turnover? We need more details on how this exactly.
Well, so actually, there were two turnovers on the play. So Hayes was advancing the puck out of his own zone towards center ice. Brock Nelson made a defensive play, caused him to turn the puck over. Hayes was able to regather the puck, but now in his own zone, so now he's retreating, and he just tried passing the puck back to his defenseman. But as he did that, Adam Pelech came storming in from the blue line, saw a vulnerability and an opportunity to potentially cause a turnover, which is exactly what happened as he got it back to, I think it was Keith Yandel, the defenseman for the Rangers, that Kevin Hayes got the puck back to. Yandel tried to pass the puck back to try and advance it forward. Pelech deflected the puck. The puck skittered towards the right circle where Brock Nelson just happened to be, gathered the puck, snapped the pass Lundqvist, tie game, big goal in the game. But Pelech, yeah, he came down from the blue line once Hayes regathered the puck, and it was a tremendous play by Pelech. It was a gutsy play. Look, if he doesn't make a play there and he gets caught in in the offensive zone, the Rangers quickly advance the puck forward. Now you may have an on-man situation for the Rangers, but Pelech made a tremendous play there, caused a turnover, and which directly led to the goal. Clap, clap, clap. Well done, Mr. Pelech.
Now, there has to be a shorter way to describe that. I mean, there's no like name for the type of play that happened there. I mean, there's just so many details.
So the best way to sum up what happened was that he pinched. So whenever a defenseman pinches, it means that he is committing in the offensive zone. Normally, defensemen are going to hang out towards the blue line because they obviously, if the opposing team gets the puck, they're going to be moving it up ice. They're going to be trying to create an offensive chance. And the defenseman for your own team, you have to make sure you're in position to defend against it. Now, when you're pinching, you're trying to create offense in the offensive zone. Either by keeping a play alive, by just adding an extra man down low, but by pinching there, he clearly just sensed a vulnerability and sensed an opportunity to be able to try and cause a turnover. That was the only reason that he came down there. Otherwise, he would have stood back. He would have, Nelson would have forechecked and maybe tried to make a play on his own once the initial turnover was caused. But Pelech just had had those sense and the willingness and the willingness to take a risk there to try and make a play, and that's what he did. So
the Pelech pinch. The Pelech pinch. All right. Now, is that a stat that that statisticians keep track of? Is it a pinch?
No. As advanced as stats are now, I don't think they keep track of pinches by the defenseman. It's something that is somewhat subjective. So I don't think you're ever going to see as advanced as NHL stats have become now. You probably won't see a stat for that. One of those plays that will not go down in the stat book, but was the goal would not have happened without Pelech making that play. So well done. And as whoever the poster was concluded in their post, if he gets sent down to the minors once Boychuk and Travis Hamonic come back, there really legitimately should be a mutiny, because that would mean that spot would be taken by either the amazing Brian Straight or Marek Zidlicky.
Well, then what are the Islanders' options? What could they do to keep him on the team and active and playing when those guys come back? Explain to us like the construct of NHL roster. I know there's certain guys that can be like on the major league roster, if you will, but they're not active. So like Mayfield wasn't active, I think, the last couple games. So. How does that work? And when the two defensemen come back, what are their options?
Well, I think right now, so Johnny Boychuk is on injured reserve. I don't think that Travis Hamonic is. Travis Hamonic will just continue to be a scratch until he's ready to come back. So when Boychuk comes back, then they will have to clear a roster spot. And honestly, I don't know what they'll do at that point. It's an interesting question. What they will do at that point, I don't have the answer to it. What if your question is what they can do? I mean, they could send Brian straight down to the minor leagues. He would have to clear through waivers, I believe. Yeah, he would definitely have to clear through waivers because he only has a one-way contract, so he would have to clear through waivers. Obviously, he will. And if someone wants to grab him, God bless you, take him, get him off the team. Or Zidlicki, it doesn't matter. I mean, him or Straight, it doesn't matter. One or the other. I would say keep Zidlicki up here. Zidlicki can still, contribute if he has to step in for an injury. But Straight would be the one that I would say should be sent down because there will not be a spot available once both of those guys are ready to come back.
But Straight, I mean, is that a guy that's been sent to the minors like in a while? I mean, the way you talk about him, he sounds like a guy that has been on the team for a long time and he's just there and you think he sucks, but he's not a guy that they're just going to suddenly demote. Is that accurate? I have no idea.
If you're asking me what I think that they're going to do, I would say they're probably going to send down Pelech because I don't know. It's ridiculous considering that this is a team that's contending for a Stanley Cup. I mean, if they want to believe that they are legitimate contenders this year, you have to put out your best players. And it's an interesting point because I was in favor of at least one of their young defensemen being on the team all season long. The only reason that Pelech is here right now is because of two injuries to their, two of their top four defensemen. And in my opinion, especially a defenseman, you can't just learn the game at the minor league level. And you have to once you're seasoned enough playing at the minor league level, playing in the AHL, you have to be called up to the big club. And if you can put a player like that, on your bottom pairing, as one of your bottom pairing defensemen, playing, however many minutes a game, between, 15, 16, as we discussed last game, as a third pairing defenseman, you're going to be able to develop better. You'll be able to learn the NHL game at the NHL level. And then if you have to play bigger minutes because of an injury, then you may be able to. And you have to learn what you have with the young player. And I think it was a big mistake by the Islanders not having one of their young kids, young defensemen up from the beginning of the season to know exactly what they have and see if they can develop at the NHL level. But if you ask me my opinion, I think they'll probably send them back down, which is a giant mistake. It would be a huge mistake, and I honestly think it would be reason for a mutiny.
So the GM makes that call?
I guess, yeah. There'll be a meeting between the GM. Since there's nobody else in the front office, it'll just be the GM and the coach getting together in the GM's basement. I think that's where Capuano lives, and Garth's basement is one of the running jokes on Islander Mania. But yeah, they'll just get together and they'll make a decision as to how they're going to proceed once both of those players, Boychuk and Hamonic, are ready to come back. And
we'll see what happens. Okay, so again, the Islanders 3-1 win, all 3 goals scored in the third period. Rangers' first goal was late second, if I recall correctly. Had to feel pretty good coming out of that one. Halak played well, obviously. He only allowed 1 goal. So that brings us to last night, hosting the Canucks in a game where I think the Islanders had at least 45 shots on net before they scored. Something around that number. It may have been more. And it was getting to the point where I was wondering what was the most shots on goal in a shutout game, like for the Islanders in recent memory, because they had so many chances and just could not score, and they did with 50 seconds left in regulation. What jumped out at you in this game that they ultimately lost in a shootout?
Well, this was a pretty eventful game considering that they were playing a team that's not considered a rival. I mean, they're in the Western Conference. They play them twice a year. So it was a very eventful game. I mean, honestly, I thought the Islanders really had control of the game for the most part, especially in that third period. The Islanders were buzzing the entire period. They had some very good chances. Now, I mean, you look at the shots on goal. You look at the attempts as now one of the advanced stats, if you want to call it an advanced stat, that you will now see mentioned during NHL broadcasts. And I think the Islanders had something like 90-something attempts on net. So that includes shots that were blocked, shots that went wide, shots at the post, shots that aren't counted as actual shots on goal. So you look at that number and you say, wow, I mean, they just must have been dominating this game. And I won't go as far as say that they dominated the game. They had some, a lot of those shots were from the outside. I thought Vancouver did a good job of keeping the Islanders, to the perimeter. Not many shots, from prime scoring areas like the slot or, in front of the net. But they did have some shots they did have some opportunities, like Kyle Oposo, who had a couple point blanks opportunities in the game, especially one in the third period where a turnover that the Islanders caused allowed Oposo to go in all alone on the goalie. Of course, couldn't score. Something that he has not been able to do enough of this year is finish when he has those opportunities. That's for another time. But I thought that the Islanders definitely controlled this game. I thought they definitely got the better of the play for most of the game. In the third period, they were all over Vancouver. Of course, got the game-tying goal in the very last minute of the game, which was a shot that was a screen shot. Ryan Miller, the goalie, who played a tremendous game for Vancouver, was able to see the puck, was able to track the puck for most of the game. On that particular goal, though, he was not able to. He was screened, and you saw that he just didn't react, so clearly did not see the puck. Great shot by Strome, by the way, from the left circle, went far post, over his glove. Hell of a shot by Strome for the tying goal, and it was an unfortunate loss because they were definitely the better team for a majority of the game.
So I have a question about
Yes.
the game, and this is an officiating question.
All right.
It was either late first period, early second period. There was a play on Ryan Miller at the net, and the puck was kind of loose in the crease, and the puck eventually squirmed into the net, and you could hear the crowd start cheering. At the same time, the ref or the officials waving his arms emphatically, no goal, no goal. So you didn't think that it was going to be ruled a goal, even though you saw the replay and you saw the puck go in the net. So what Howie Rose was saying on the air was that, first of all, if the play is blown dead before the puck goes, before it goes in the net, no goal, obviously. But what he added to that, which was new to a perhaps novice hockey fan like myself, is he said that if the referee is merely anticipating blowing his whistle to call a play dead, he doesn't actually have to call it dead, but if he anticipates it, that is enough for the play to be dead and for the goal to not be scored.
Yeah, correct. So Howie was absolutely right in his his assessment and explanation as to what happened there. And I honestly, I don't even know why they went to review. I mean, nobody in their right mind thought that they were going to call it a goal. I mean, yeah, the puck went in the net, but the official clearly waved it off as it went in the net. And yeah, the rule is as long as the official has the intent of putting the whistle to his mouth to blow it, it's not going to be a goal. And that's exactly what happened.
So what caused the official to blow the play dead? So I'm a little unclear on the rule itself.
It's pretty much when the official loses track of the puck, or loses sight of the puck. So when the puck is either underneath the player in the crease or underneath the goalie, they'll usually give a latitude of maybe 1 to 2 seconds tops. And then at that point, if they still don't see the puck, they just assume that it's frozen, it's underneath the goalie or whatever, and then they'll blow the whistle, which is exactly what happened. The puck was underneath Miller, loose, obviously, because the puck was pushed into the net. But it was underneath Miller. The official didn't see it. The referee didn't see it. Therefore, he's going to blow his whistle, which is what he went to do as the puck was, simultaneously as he was blowing his whistle, puck went into the net, but waved it off immediately once the puck went in. But
now, is that rule anywhere on the ice? Like if they lose control of where the puck is, not just in the crease with the goalie?
Yeah. If you'll see that happen a lot during the game. Any game you'll see the puck frozen. It's either underneath the player, whether it's at center ice or in the crease. If the puck gets frozen along the boards, they'll blow the whistle. Sometimes, if it's along the boards, they'll just tell the players to move it along. They'll say, unfreeze it, get it moving. Other times they'll blow the whistle. It's just at their discretion at that point. But you'll see them do that a handful of times.
Don't you sometimes see players intentionally try to cover the puck, just in play? Or is that something you get penalized for?
You can get penalized if you cover it with your glove and you're holding it, and then you're intentionally delaying the game. Now, if you let's say you block a shot, it hits you, it goes underneath you, you fall down on it. Then
hits you in the taint.
Well, if it hits you there, you probably will be falling down and will not be getting back up, no matter how much of the other players are going to be pushing you. But and then I'm sure they'll probably have to pry you up at that point. But yeah, if that does happen and you fall on top of the puck and you're not able to get it loose and retrieve it, they'll usually just blow the whistle dead there. But something like that, you won't get a penalty.
All right, so one other thing to this game now that we're talking about it, my memory's all coming back, that you talked about all the Islander attempts. There were a lot of penalties in this game, it seemed like. Even, again, just as your casual observer, I suppose. If it was – there was that 5-minute misconduct call on a hit, right? And something about it was 5 minutes, and then there were like these staggered penalties. I couldn't even keep track of it. And then there was like a 20-second power play that came out of this that didn't even get that gets included as an official power play. So there was just so many things going on. I'm like, this is beyond me. I don't even. That's why we have you. So what was going on? What was the call? That 5-minute penalty? Why was it? Why was it called? You said terrible call. What happened there?
Well, so the initial call was a boarding call as Mikhail Grabovski took Henrik Sedin into the boards. And you can say that I'm biased, that I have Islander blue and orange color blinders or goggles on, and I'm not seeing it objectively. But I'll be honest with you, I did not think that was a 5-minute major penalty. And the NHL. For something like that, I mean, they are pretty liberal now with handing out suspensions. I mean, you'll see players suspended quite often for hits like that. A player gets boarded, a dangerous hit like that. They'll get suspended a game or two, depending on their history, depending on the injuries. As we get the explanation from, I think it's Stefan Quintal now is the NHL head of player safety or whatever his title is. But looking at that play. I did not think that was a 5-minute major. It was not malicious. It was not premeditated. I didn't think they were engaged in the play, both Grabovski and Sedin. And he took him into the boards. Was it dangerous? Yes, in the sense that he was a couple feet away from the boards. It was also along the bench, so you don't have the cushioning or be able to brace yourself against the boards as opposed to against the bench there.
Yes, very
well,
cushioning. Good
well,
word.
At least probably not the right word to use there, but if you have the full boards, at least you can brace yourself better. There Sedin wasn't able to brace himself. It was just circumstance, and it was just unfortunate that he got hurt. But it was more circumstance and just the way he went into the boards awkward or the bench awkward that caused him to get injured. It was not a malicious hit. It was not vicious. It was not premeditated. It wasn't targeting the head, which they're trying to get rid of. Could have been a dangerous hit? Sure. And he was hurt, yes. But
and that guy's the captain of the team, right? Wasn't he the captain of the team? Is he their best player?
He is one of their top players. Him and Daniel Sedin are twins. They are two of the best players in the league. And he's one of the best players on the team. That's why it elicited the reaction that it did from his teammates on the ice, and that's what led to the whole brouhaha that resulted from that play, and that's what also resulted in the additional penalties being given out, and that's why Vancouver did not have a full 5-minute power play to score as many goals as they would have been able to if they would have had the full 5 minutes power play time. But I did not like the call. I thought it was a bad call. I thought it was a 2-minute boarding call at worst. And the NHL, I think, validates my and anybody else who shares my opinion by not suspending him going forward.
So something about the game that caught my eye. We'll call this the hipster zenith moment of the week. Meaning something that I noticed that got me excited. That it got me as an alleged hipster excited that. Your typical fan would not find exciting. And that is the Canucks jerseys, actually. It occurred to me that their colors are completely different from the days when Pavel Bure donned the jersey. And I'm wondering, when did the change happen? Because I never noticed it.
I think they've had this jersey now for, I want to say, at least 15 years, if not even longer. Yeah, the days of those black and yellow jerseys of Pavel Bure and Trevor Linden and Cliff Ronning and Kirk McLean. Oh, yeah. Well, of course.
If the Canucks came out in those jerseys last night, to me, it would have been, oh, there they are, the Vancouver Canucks. It would have been business as usual for me. And meanwhile, like the rest of the NHL, Twitterverse would have been going, what the hell is this? What's going on? Like, retro jersey night or something. And
instead,
I missed that. I mean, it was too plain. I missed those like really. Well, to me, it also brought back memories of watching them play against the Rangers in the Stanley Cup. An incredible series and just on the edge of your seat type hockey the whole time. Going back now more than 20 years, that was just good stuff. And maybe that's
hold on.
That's what I'm looking for.
Well, be careful with the good stuff. This is an Islander podcast, and for me and like other Islander fans, that was not good stuff when the Rangers won the Cup that year because that took away our 1940 chant. At least that for me, that was one of my favorite chants growing up. And I'll be honest with you, actually, now that you mentioned that series, this is true, and I remember this. So I was watching Game 7 of that series, and actually, I can very quickly relay a couple stories I think our audience will find interesting. So after Game 1, the Canucks won in overtime. They beat the Rangers in the Garden in overtime. And I was in 4th grade, and I yelled out the window to some random like teenager, probably like in high school. I yelled 1940 out the window. He thought I cursed at him, so he walks up. I'm on the bus, so we're on the bus coming home, and I yell out the window. He then walks up. He goes back into his house.
How did you yell it? How did you yell it?
I just yelled 1940, but loud enough so he can hear me. So he hears me. He gives me the finger. He walks into his house. This is all true. Walks into his house, and then like 3 minutes later, we're still there for whatever reason. He walks outside, walks up to the window, and literally punches the window and cracks it. All because I yelled 1940 at him, and they have to detain us in this bus.
What is this person's first name?
I have no idea. It was just some random idiot that I yelled.
Some random. You don't even know who it was.
I didn't even know who it was. I just was on the bus. And I just yelled at him.
Was he wearing a Rangers jersey?
No, he may not even been a hockey fan. He may not even know the Rangers were.
Why are you yelling 1940 out? I mean, if you thought he was a Ranger fan, I'd understand. But you didn't even know if he was a Rangers fan. He just yelled out the window anyway.
I really had no idea. I was just yelling at anybody. I was just trying to taunt any Ranger, any person that could have potentially.
Any human being, 1940.
Pretty much.
You could have been taunting Islander fans yelling 1940. Oh my gosh.
It could have been an Islander fan, but if he was, he probably would have been like, "Yeah, that's right." He would
have cheered it back.
He probably would have. He wouldn't have punched the window.
Did the bus stop? Did the bus have to stop and all that? Like, you have to deal with all that aftermath, or it didn't realize it just went on?
No. So after this happened, I mean, like the whole bus is like, all the 10 and 11-year-olds in the bus were like, "Oh my God, what just happened?" And then the bus driver is like, I think her name was Arlene. She was like, she was a woman, by the way. So but I think this is
Arlene.
I think this is a good imitation of her voice, even though she was a woman. What happened? What's going on back there? What's all the ruckus? So they detained us there for like a half hour. We're just sitting there now for them to get another bus to come and pick up all the children on the bus and take us back home.
Because there's a broken window.
Because there's a broken window. They couldn't drive us in that bus anymore. So
the series brings up good times for you too, clearly, in some fashion.
Well, I did cry when the Rangers won Game 7. That was very traumatic for me. I did cry. I was taunted by the older Ranger fans on the bus the next day. This was a bus with a fresh, a fresh window that was put in, a new window, brand new window that was put in after the one that was cracked was removed, I believe. But the older
gas
kids
with your tears. W-gas. Who gives a shoo?
So it was a very painful memory for me. But yes, those old jerseys, I do miss those jerseys. And these colors now, the new jerseys I think are pretty ugly. If you want to know my honest opinion on it, but
All right, so John
next.
Scott. Next, right? John Scott is next. Getting a lot of headlines now. We more headlines than when we talked about him only a few days ago. So we were talking about the possibility of John Scott, who was voted by the fans to be on the NHL All-Star team, and then was demoted to the minors before the game went down. The possibility that he would not be on an active, NHL team roster when the All-Star game was played. Well, stuff has gone down, and so now the picture is crystal clear, painted for us.
Yeah, well, so now Mr. Scott, who again, as a joke, was voted as an All-Star Game captain to be a captain for the Pacific Division, which is of course the division now for his former team. As anybody that has been following the story, John Scott was traded to the Montreal Canadiens. It was a hockey deal for both teams, except for John Scott. Now you might be thinking, why in the hell would the Montreal Canadiens be trading for John Scott? And only to demote him to the minors if they had no use for him. So apparently the Phoenix Coyotes, now here's the theory now. At least the conspiracy theory is that the NHL and the Arizona Coyotes conspired together to make it impossible for John Scott to play in the All-Star game. So what happened now is John Scott was traded to the Montreal Canadiens, and now that he's on a different team in a different division and immediately demoted to the minors, he will be ineligible to be the captain for a Pacific Division team. So now it's like, oh, well, sorry, John Scott, at least from the NHL's perspective, sorry, John, you can't play in the All-Star game. You can't be a captain.
Sorry, John. Sorry, John. Sorry, John. Sorry, John. That's the NHL voice. That's the NHL voice. Sorry, John.
I think that it's that snarky kind of weasel-like voice, because that's what the NHL did here. It was they definitely weaseled themselves out from this, at least for them, embarrassment. And you know what? I look at this, and you can say, what's the big deal? This, to me, was a disgraceful action by the NHL. The NHL should be ashamed of themselves for the way that they handled this. Look, John Scott admitted initially that he wasn't thrilled with this because he knew it was a joke, but he kind of embraced it, said, wow, I can play in the All-Star game, something I never dreamed of, have an opportunity to play with these great players, just taking the experience. And, there was a story about his wife was having twins and he was going to bring his family and everything. And now, the NHL, and the Arizona Coyotes, inexplicably trade him now, and to make him, at least with the NHL, ruling, at least as of right now, is that he's ineligible to play in the All-Star game and represent the Pacific Division. We don't know what's going to happen. Maybe the NHL will do the right thing and let him represent the, be the captain for the Pacific Division, represent the Coyotes, even though he's not on the Coyotes anymore. Supposedly, the NHL Players Association was going to file a grievance on his behalf because he actually could be potentially he may be losing income if the Pacific Division wins this tournament. The winner gets a $1 million prize. So his share, his cut, would be gone if he's not playing, and he would have been playing, of course, if he wouldn't have been traded. So it's really a black eye for the NHL. People really are up in arms just because the NHL is basically spitting in the face of their fans and saying, we don't care that you voted him in, even though this game is supposed to be about you. They've taken this thing and they just really have put themselves in a very precarious situation, and shame on them, and hopefully they will make this right for him and everybody else. It just kind of
sucks overall. Sucks how it ended up playing out, I guess. It was fun to follow, kind of a joke at first, and just now it just leaves a bad taste in everyone's mouth. There's really no happy ending anywhere except for, sorry, John. So so the Islanders have no games this week until Friday. So they're just hanging out. Pelech didn't play yesterday, so hopefully he gets back. So did Mayfield even play in his place? I didn't pick up on that, but he did.
Yeah, so Mayfield took a spot in the game yesterday. Yeah, I don't know what the status is for Pelech for their next game, which of course won't be until Friday. So he has time to rest up, or heal his wound. Supposedly the injury.
Right. So they're traveling north to Ottawa Friday night, and then they come back home the next day, the next night, to host the Flyers on Saturday. So, who's a player or two in Ottawa that we should be, focusing on that presents a potentially tough matchup for the Islanders?
The Islanders actually have played pretty well in Ottawa recently. There was a stretch there, I think, like 10 years ago, where they lost like 20. It was some ridiculous number. It was like 28 out of like 30 games, something like that they lost in Ottawa.
Stat check.
Well, that I'm not sure, but I can say.
No, you better be sure. 28 out of 30.
The number I don't know exactly, but I can say for a fact that they really struggled in Ottawa for a period there. Recently, they played better, but Ottawa, the biggest matchup problem for them or anybody else is their dynamic superstar defenseman Erik Karlsson, who is one of the great defensemen in the game. He is a perennial Norris Trophy candidate. He is one of the great offensive defensemen in the game. He's one of the best skaters in the game. He can do everything from his defense position. He is a terrific player. But they have a good group of young forwards. Ottawa's not a great team, but they're definitely a team that's improving. But a team that the Islanders have matched up pretty well with over the last couple of years.
All right, so you don't sound too intimidated in that one, and then we get the Flyers again. With the last time the Islanders played the Flyers was 2 Saturdays ago, and they just sucked in Philly. We went on that. We talked about that one for a while. So another, do you call this a redemption game? Or is there some other theme that more sticks out?
No, I mean they're a team that's in their division that is creeping up on them. I think the Flyers, right now are only a handful of points. I can look that up right now. My computer will let me. But they definitely have played much better. Philadelphia right now is at 48 points. The Islanders are at 54, so 6 points behind. But the Flyers have played much better over the last couple of weeks. They are a team that's they're a good offensive team. Their defense is young, and they're definitely going to be better in the future. A team that's trying to kind of find an identity. They just traded I think we mentioned on the first broadcast they traded Vinny Lecavalier and Luke Shen to the Kings to get rid of their contracts. And they're definitely a team that's playing better though, and they'll be a formidable opponent for the Islanders come Saturday. And it's always an interesting matchup when you play a divisional rival, if you will. But right now, the Islanders just be focused on the fact that the Flyers are not too far behind them, and they have 2 games in hand as well.
All right. So I guess the Islanders are going to get in some practice time this week and some rest. I don't know what you do with 4 days off when you're a hockey player, but I guess you find a way to fill in the time. There will be some travel. And do you think when do they travel to Ottawa? You think the day before? You think that's usually what they do?
Yeah, usually they'll travel the day before. They'll have a morning skate is typically the routine, and when you have this much time off, though, you can get up there early and settle in, do your morning skate, do your meetings and your run-throughs and whatever. So that's probably what they'll end up doing.
Who doesn't want to get to Ottawa, nice and early and settle in?
Hey, well, it is the Canadian capital. I'm sure that there's probably at least maybe 1 or 2 sites that they can see that they probably have seen. Each player at least 15 to 20 times already. So maybe they could find a nice hipster bar. Maybe there's like a nice little corner of Ottawa that's considered to be the hipster area of Ottawa they can find and just kind of blend in.
I'm sure you would just consider Ottawa's just probably a hipster central somehow. You could find a way for it to be just because it's Ottawa. All right. Well, good show. Good catching up. I think it seems like it's an interesting time to be an Islanders fan. They're showing a lot of good signs. They have their share of downs too, but we're in for this. To see how this plays out over the rest of the season. And until next time, it's hip.
Yes.
And the lip.
Yes. All right.
All right, bye. All right, bye. All right, bye. All right, bye.
Bye. Next.
Bye.